just what I've done so far as prep. There's still a tiny little bit of prep to do. I didn't want to bore you too much with that. And then I'm going to pull the camera over to the little dresser here, which is up on a table. And I've got it on rollers so I can move it around as we work on it today. So I want to finish doing the prep, and then I want to start on the painting of it in the first coat. And there's a few little things I want to tell you about that as well as we prep this piece. So this piece is going to be stained on top, which we've almost finished doing that part. It will have, the body of it will be painted in Fusion Raw Silk, which is a really pretty off-white. Yeah, I'd say it's an off-white color. It's kind of a gray-brown undertone, but it's really a beautiful color, especially if you're doing antique pieces or farmhouse style pieces. And I'm going to be using a little tiny bit of Zinsser 123 Bullseye Primer. A lot of people use the primer that you roll on or brush on, but I honestly felt that was just a pain in the rump. So when they came out with this, I don't use it very often, and I never do a whole piece in it, but I do use it for certain parts, and I'll tell you why. And then I'm going to use a little bit of Fusion's Ultra Grip, which Ultra Grip is super good if you've got a spot that's really decorative and a lot of scroll work, and it's just really difficult to get in there and sand. So I'll show you one drawer in here that we're going to use Ultra Grip on. Hi there. And then we're going to take the drawers out and let the Ultra Grip dry on that one drawer, and then we'll paint the other drawer. So we should get a lot done today, at least the first coat. So when you're using a light color like raw silk over a wood, and this wood's fairly dark, if you can see it here, it's fairly dark. Hi. You can use white primer over it if you want, but it's not really necessary. If you are using a light color over dark, though, it's going to take 3 coats. The lighter the paint for Fusion paint, apparently it doesn't have as much pigment in it. That's what I was told. And so it does take 3 coats. If you were doing a dark color like ash or midnight blue or one of the darker colors over this wood, then it would probably just take 2 coats. And that's what I've found before too. So when I turn the camera back, I won't be able to see any comments or what anybody's saying. Hello. But when I turn it back, I won't be able to see anything. So you can leave a comment and I'll respond later if you like. But do share it with your friends. Get people on here that want to learn about painting. I kind of learned the hard way, just trial and error, and some things I found that were, a little bit easier to do. You kind of find your own shortcuts as you go along, so that's what we're going to do. So this is up on a table right now, and I just wanted to show you a few things with this old piece. And then I'm going to take it off the table and show you the rest of it as we go through it. So the first thing I'm going to do is finish sanding these table legs. There's a little bit of gloss on them still. I did take my palm sander and sanded the whole thing, but then on the detailed bits like the legs where there's a lot of indentation and doweling, you need to actually use a piece of sandpaper. So I find that 180 to 220 grit is just fine, just a little piece to finish that up. So I don't want to do too much chatting today. I want to get right to it. I'll be chatting away, of course, as I'm doing this, but I want to actually work on it and get a lot done. And then after today, we're going to let it dry overnight, and I do have a rub-on transfer coming. It's a beautiful transfer, and if you've never seen a transfer done on a piece, then you should stay tuned for that too, and it'll be in the next few days. It's coming from back east, so I don't know where it is in transit right now, but that will be really cool. And then we'll do a little bit of antiquing wax and a little bit of glazing, and we'll finish the top, which is a beautiful color now, and then that will be it, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to put my glasses on and start. I'll move the camera over, and I won't be able to see any of your comments from here on out. So, all right, okay. So I'm going to move this in a little bit so you can see. I always can never figure out where the lens is here. Okay, so what I've done is I've sanded most of this, but I'm going to take a little piece of this sanding paper here, tear a piece off, and make a little wedge with it. And I have gone around, but I just have to get in some of the details. Now, if you didn't want to do it so detailed, you should, but if you didn't want to, you can do it like I have on that piece, where it's just very briefly sanded, and then it's sprayed with the Zinsser 123 Bullseye. This is a primer for all surfaces, even if you don't sand. I have tried it with no sanding, and it actually does work. So, but I recommend sanding. I think if you're going to do a piece for a client, then you might as well do it right. So I'm just getting the last of this off. Now, these wheels pop right off, sort of, like that. And I'm going to be cleaning those up. Not sure with what yet, but I'll be cleaning those up for her. And this helps me to get in the base here a bit better. So try to be as detailed as you can be on your sanding, because you want the paint to really stick well. It doesn't have to be a super good sanding, but just, you know, as long as you get in there a little bit and get some of the gloss. You're aiming to get the gloss off the piece is what you're aiming to do. So that is about that, and then take a piece of tap cloth and wipe the rest of the dust off. And I believe that's about it. There's a little bit over here. I'm not worried about getting, on an antique piece, I'm not worried about getting every little nick out of the wood, because I think that the little nicks and things actually add to it a little bit. I like to paint right underneath the piece, and I just think it looks so much tidier when it's all painted under here. This had a lot of really old rough paint under it. I've already cleaned this side a bit. It had old stain and old varnish underneath. You can really see it here compared to here, right? So I'm going to just clean this and just smooth it out and get it ready to take the paint. Doesn't need to be a lot. This has a little piece missing, so I have that piece with me. I have to glue it in, and I use a lot of No More Nails, which I really love for fixing wood pieces. I'm going to show you this. This is a little medallion. You can use Ultra Grip in here. This is Fusion Mineral Paints Ultra Grip, and it's just a sticky stuff that goes in here in the grooves if you wanted to, and that allows the paint to adhere to the Ultra Grip. But you have to let this dry for quite a while, so I tend not to. I tend to just take my sanding paper, and as long as I've scuffed this up a little bit like that, it's good to paint. You take your sanding paper and you go in the grooves here, in the grooves there, and you just do that with all the grooves. I've already done all this, so I'm not going to repeat it, but that's how you clean up detailed pieces. And I'll show you on a drawer. I'm going to clean all this up. I'll show you on a drawer that I have over here. This drawer here, I'm going to use the Ultra Grip on because it's too much detail to do with the sanding block. I've also taken the primer and I've gone right along the very, very edge of my piece. And that just helps get, you know, paint tight up into there. That was a trick I learned with painting walls as well. So that was the last little bit of prepping I had to do on this, because I've already done it. I did use my hand sander, and then the palm sander. I sanded the whole thing, and then I hand sanded a little bit to get more detail on it. I'm going to leave these legs on for now, because when I take this off of the wheels after. I'm going to want to roll it around a little bit. And I'm done with this. I'm going to turn my sound off because somebody keeps beeping me. Okay. So, all right. So what I'm going to do now is get my paint, which I have over here. So I'm going to use the Ultra Grip in a bit here. I'm also going to use maybe a roller and a tray in a little bit here too. So what I'm going to do is start on these bottom pieces. I like to get, this has never been painted in here before. I won't paint here, but I like to get the legs cleaned up nicely and everything cleaned up nicely. When you're using this paint, pour it into something like a little paper cup or whatever so that you don't have your brush being dipped into the actual can, because you can really wreck your paint by getting it contaminated. So we're gonna just start putting this on. When I put it on, it looks terrible, but I always smooth it out. So I always say it's not that important how you get it on. It's important how you smooth it out before you leave it to dry. So a little bit in there. I kind of just, when I do an old piece, I kind of just paint up inside a little bit where it's never been painted before actually. So always be cognizant of what people can see if they were, on the floor or whatever. Not that anybody would be, but this is the first coat, and the first coat looks terrible. It looks like you're never going to get anything proper, but it does smooth out on the second and third coat. Okay, so what I'm finding is this paint is a little bit sticky, so I'm going to add my spray bottle. So I use this mister bottle. It's just a really fine mist, and I'll spray my brush. And that will help. If your paint gets sticky on you right away, you know that it needs a little bit of water. And I always hear people say that the paint is leaving massive brush marks, and that's probably why. And you will see brush marks regardless on your first coat. There's no way around it. But by the time you get a second and third coat on, you should not see those at all, really. Maybe a little tiny bit, but it's pretty much covered. Okay, so I'm going to go now around, bring my bottle, around and around. And these ones I'll do this way, go around here. So I'm not too concerned if it's leaving marks. You can see marks, if you can see that in there. I'm not too concerned about that because my second and third coat are going to cover that up. Okay, so let's go to this side. And I don't have a camera person, so it's all me. Now you can see this is primed. You see how nice that goes over the primer? It's just like a third coat almost. So that's what I like the primer for. I like the primer for difficult spots. Like this is a difficult little leg. It's a lot of turned wood, right? And as you can see on the other one with the first coat, it left a lot of marks, which, like I say, will be filled in. But this primer on things like this turned leg are just so entirely helpful. You wouldn't believe it. And it just makes sure that everything gets done properly. So again, I'm going to go around and around and around. And this part I'll do lengthwise, and then I'll go around again. And I'll pull that paint up a little bit and use some of it up. And then I'm going to go down there. Might as well do this bit while we're here. And start putting it on in here too. And I just want a little bit up in this inside area here. So I've got it on. Now I'm going to smooth it out one direction like that, and then I will just leave it. And same thing on the side. The first coat, do not put on heavy. You're better to put on 3 medium to light coats than you are to put on heavy coats, because heavy coats will leave massive thick brush marks, and those are actually grooves in the paint if you do it like that. So okay, well, my little cup here. Oh, can you see that? I wish I had. I'm gonna have to put wheels on my tripod one day. So again, this is the first coat. That's already starting. Now I'm gonna go up this bit here because I don't like it. I think it looks ugly. And I haven't really sanded that out, but it's okay. Now this side, I haven't even sanded that part. See, you can see it in there. It's really, really yucky. It's thick. It's got old stuff in it. It has to be sanded off, so I can't even do that bit yet. Now, okay. So, I'm gonna do these sides. I'm gonna turn this. Move you back a little bit. Sorry about the camera, but I'm by myself, so I can't really do much about it. Okay, how's that? That's good. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna, missed my brush, and I'm going to turn my light on so you can see better. There we go. And I'm going to do the outside of the frame here first. So I don't have much paint. I'm just going to use very little paint at first. I tend to not load my brush like gobs and gobs of it anyway. I don't like doing that at all. Okay, so we're up in here, and then we're going to go up and pull it down, and up and pull it down. I want to get right in this groove here that I've sanded out. So I'm going to put a little bit of extra effort into that first. And same thing with the top side. You'll see this better once I take the... So all I'm doing there is just putting a smattering of paint inside that. There's a groove that runs right along here, and I'm just making sure I get paint in there. I'm not super concerned about my brush strokes, but if you look, I am going back and forth. They say one direction, but if you go the same direction back and forth, just don't cross it, then you're good. Okay, so let's go back. And then there's a little lip, so I'm trying to get under that little lip. And smooth your paint out. A painter once told me when we were painting walls that if you're partway through painting something and you want to take a lunch break, just feather out your work. Feather out your work, and if your work is feathered out, you can go for days and come back and start it all over again, and it'll be perfect every time. But if you gob it on and then leave it, it's going to never look good when you come back to it. So feathering it is just, if I were to feather this now, I would just feather it up until the paint is really dispersed. And believe it or not, that is all feathering is. I'm just taking the heaviest part and pulling it right up. So I could come back to that, have absolutely 0 brush marks if I wanted to, but I don't. So I'm going to carry on. Get some of this done. I'm really excited. So now I'm going to pull this back. I'm really excited to see this piece with the transfer on when we get the transfer next week. So here I'm move over here, but what I'm doing is I've put the paint up here, right? But now I'm grabbing it at the top, almost like pressing it in and pulling it down. When I do the second coat, I will do a roller, and I'll probably do the second coat tonight. Actually, no, you know what? I'll do the second coat, or I'll do the roller right now, and I'll just pour some paint in here super quick. I often use the top of my piece as my workbench too, because I can always sand off any goop I get on it, so I'm not too worried about it. So just a little bit of paint in there, the rest on your brush. Okay, now I spritz my roller just to get it a little bit wet. Doesn't have to be very wet, just needs to be a bit damp. And squeeze out the dampness. And we'll put some paint on it. This is just a microfiber roller. It's a 4-inch, and they're just super handy for painting. So if you don't have any, the reason I do this here is because it's a flat surface. And it covers on a flat surface super fast. So it's still gonna look awful because it's your first coat and all the brown is still showing through. You're gonna see some streak marks. But what I'm doing right now is I'm laying the paint on. And I'm kind of mamby-pamby, not doing any great method. I'll even go this way just to get it down here. So I'm just doing it odds and sods just to get paint on it. And I can even go up here. And I can even go up here. I don't want to get onto my drawer fronts though yet. So I'm going to roll it on here. You can see these marks in here, but we'll fix that in a second. Okay, that's just a really brief rolled on coat. Very brief. So now what I'll do is take my roller. You can see every time I push into my roller, I'm leaving a mark. But what I want to do is just very lightly, almost take your pressure off your roller and roll. This here is a scar in the wood that was from them moving one time, and they scratched the side of their piece and left this big mark for me to fix. So that's good. That's all I want to do is just roll that little bit out, and that's really, really fast. And it also makes your piece super smooth, like not smooth, but uniform, right? So that's that side, pretty fast. Go to the other side. And we'll do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I always have to check my screen to see what you guys are seeing. And just get the paint on. Get into that groove here. Up top, you'll see what I'm talking about when I move the piece down. I'm really slopping this on, but I would never leave it like this. Like if you're gonna slop it on like this, you need to go back immediately and fix it. But for now, I just want the paint on. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the top and pull all the way down. Go to the top and pull all the way down, and it's gonna leave a few little marks. That's fine. Okay. And I'll get into this little groove here. They're really hard to get under with the roller, so I will get under that and under this groove here. And then it's time to roll again. Let's see if I have enough paint. No, I don't. It's pretty fast once you get going. There's a lot of drying time. I think a lot of the work is the prep work. I mean, if you can get through the prep work and survive, you're good. I think that's probably 50% of it is just the prep work, believe it or not. I've spent several hours on this one already, so I speak from experience. Okay, so let's just get this paint on. I'm gonna put it on mamby-pamby. Not too concerned again at the moment about how lovely it looks. It's going to look horrible with the first coat. The nice thing about this fusion paint too, I like, is that it dries. It dries super fast the first coat, like within about 20 or 30 minutes, maybe even 15. It just depends how thick you put it on. And then you can do your second coat right away. I do suggest when you do your third coat to wait overnight and let the paint really dry up overnight after the second coat before you do your third coat. Just looks so much nicer that way. But all this blotchiness you see right now will go completely with the third coat. And that's because you need to do 3 coats with this light color. You can't get away with 2 coats with white over dark wood ever. At least I don't know how anybody does it. If they do it. A little bit more paint. Okay, I'm almost there. It's going to be beautiful. The transfer that we have coming is a Prima redesign transfer, and it's beautiful florals with a little bit of writing on it. It's just really beautiful. Okay. All right, I'm going to go over this one more time and smooth it out as much as I can. And then you just don't touch it. You just leave it to dry. And like I said, it'll probably be dry in about 30 minutes. So that's 2 sides. And you see a little bit of bit I missed here from before. It's a little too thick. It didn't seem to get the underside. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this down now off of this shelf, and hopefully I don't spill it on myself. And we'll go paint the drawers. So it's pretty fast. Once you get into it, you can really start cruising along actually. I love the painting part more than anything, but okay, so let me see if I can do this without crashing. Maybe not. Oh, I have to turn it this way. This drawer out. And take this. Well, it's heavier than I thought with the drawers in there. That's not so great. Okay, hold on. I have to fix this. I will be right back. Oh, this thing's heavy. It's all about leverage, actually. There we go. Tipping. Oh, okay. I'd say it was the easiest thing to do, but I did it. All right. So I don't want to get the top at all. because it's nicely stained. Normally I would put some plastic up here, but I don't have any plastic left, so I'm just going to use my towels, my shop towels. Okay, so these are the drawers. I've got a little bit of paint on them. I'm just going to wipe that off with my baby wipes. These baby wipes are amazing for cleaning up goop. And I'll clean that off really quickly. You just don't want it to leave any marks, is what you want. But I'm going to take these drawers out. Now, this is the drawer that I said that I hadn't been able to sand in here because it's just so much to sand. I mean, it would take forever. So you can spray prime it with the bin 123 spray primer that I was telling you about, or we can use Ultra Grip, and I think I'm going to use Ultra Grip just on this little bit here. It's just goes on white. Normally you would put it in a little container, but I only need a tiny bit. So, and you just paint it into the bits you want to put it into. It's as simple as that. And what it does is that once it dries, it becomes a grippy surface. It doesn't feel necessarily terrible or anything, but it does become like a grippy surface for the paint to be able to adhere to after. So I'm going to use a little tiny bit more, get it right into all these grooves, and a little tiny bit more. You don't want to put it on really thick because it's just going to be a nightmare. I'm not worried about getting it on the top of the wood, but I just really want to get it into the grooves and work out any gobs or drips of paint like right there. Let this dry. It says 12 hours on the bottle. I've done it in less than that, but to be safe, you should probably do what it says. Okay, and that's that. So this drawer has to come out and it has to dry overnight. And then that will be painted. The whole thing will be painted. So now we're here. You can see a lot of these old pieces have a lot of dust. I don't know if you can see this, but this is really typical of an old piece. It's just really dusty and dirty. So I like to clean them as I go along. I just take a baby wipe and clean up. You know, a lot of times people don't even look at their dressers, especially the insides of them, and I'm the same way. But, you know, if it's been sitting for 80 or 90 years and then you go to paint it, ugh, it's kind of yucky. So what I'm going to do too is paint just inside here. So I want to just scratch the surface up so that the paint sticks. And the reason you do that is because when you close a drawer, you can often see right along the very edge. And I also do about an inch into the bottom part of the drawer as well. So I just rough up the surface just to make sure it's rough enough to take the paint. And like I said, I use a 180 grip a lot. Once you sand it, you don't want to dry it with a wet cloth anymore because that will just push the tooth back down. You just want to quickly clean it off with a dry cloth. So once you've cleaned it or sanded it, dry cloth. That's all you need. Doors have been sanded and prepped. Okay, so we are ready to paint here. All right. So I'm going to use my brush again. I use this is a 1.5 inch Rust-Oleum brush. I just love this brush. I have several different ones, but I really like this one. I like how it holds the paint and it's very soft. So just a little bit inside here at first. when I do the second coat, I'll tidy it up. I don't generally ever tape these off to do the inside. There's really no point. But it does just tidy it up a little bit for people. And you know, she's had this for, I don't know, 50 or 60 years in her bedroom. So I'm thinking if she wants a totally new look, which she does, because she's kind of tired of looking at the old wood, then if I don't clean it up nicely for her, then I'll kind of let her down a little bit, I think. So, okay. So that's how that looks. Just a tiny little bit of paint, just enough so that when you close the drawer after, you don't see it. Now we're going to paint the drawer, and I'll put you back here, like that. So I start along the top, and you can tape it off, but I don't. The less taping you do, the faster you get with this, so just saying. If I thought that I got paint in the back, which I probably do, I take my finger and run it along like that, and then I also take a baby wipe and run it along. And I do that for each coat, so, okay. Now, again, we're gonna roll this. And I'll show you this groove. You can see that groove there that I was telling you about, and it's on all the drawers and all the legs. That's the groove I was trying to get into with my paint before. I need more paint. Let me get more on my can. Let's see here. These are like a flat front drawer. They're probably about the easiest drawer to paint there is. Some of the drawers that you come to have, you know, the insets. They're a little bit trickier to get into the corners and things, but it's not that hard to do. You just have to find ways that work for you and watch my videos on painting and watch other people's videos and learn how it goes, and you'll be fine. So I'm going to just paint this in here with the brush to get right in that inset. And I'm going to take my roller and roll it back out. So getting the paint on is one thing, but laying it off, which is how you roll it out so that it's even depth and even stroke, is called laying off the paint. And it's if you use the roller, it works actually super well for drawers, I find anyway, and it makes your painting go a lot faster, really. It's still a lot of work, but worth it. Okay, so that little bit there is cleaned up, and that little bit there. I don't always clean up as I go along, but I want to show, I usually do a final cleanup after, but I wanted to show you just how easy it is. So I'm going to take that drawer out and let it dry over here. And we shall move on to this one, and you can see again the dust. Can you see that? That's dust. Very gross. So clean that off. Nice and tidy for her. Very yucky. And this piece is pretty rough, so I don't need to sand it. Oh, it's pretty rough along the side actually too, so I don't need to sand this. There's no varathing on it or anything right now. So I'm going to go in for about 1 inch. And scooch right along there. Same thing here, just in case. Definitely down the side. on to there and on that side. Okay, we are almost done the first coat. So this has been sanded before. Just gonna wipe it off. And I'm gonna take my finger and go along the back side. Make sure there's no paint. And then I'm going to do this groove. There's another groove down here. Not so big anymore, this one. Get this paint off my brush because it's almost ready to be done. And then I'm going to put paint on my roller, do the last drawer here. And like I said again, getting the paint on is one thing, but it's how you take it off. So now I'll go a nice couple of strokes and it'll be all nicely taken off. Okay. I'll probably be also taking the inside of her drawers. I noticed they're really damaged inside. So I'll probably be, maybe I can show you one, maybe. Like there's a lot of damage inside here. You can see that. This is actually one of the better drawers. Well, maybe I can get it out a little bit more. There's stains and all kinds. So I might take just a brief sanding and then some tongue oil or something and put it over that, because I just think if we're gonna make it all pretty on the outside, we might as well fix up the inside for this lady. Okay, so I'll take that one out. And again, there is a ton of dust in here. Clean that out. Yucky stuff. Ugh. Me no like. Just very dusty. And that's just dust from sitting for years and years and years. It's really awful. Yuck. Probably why I sneeze a lot. So we'll just keep going on here. Doing a little bit of a smoosh. And again, this is just so that when you close the drawers, you don't see white, especially along the edges here. Right in here. You don't want to see dark wood when your drawers are nice and white. I'm just going to paint that on. Give it a smidge of paint, and this will get a second coat. I don't think it needs a third coat in the sides here, but a second coat for sure. Okay. And this one here, kind of hard to do crouching down, but I shall try. Off nicely. So you want to kind of level out your strokes. So I have smeary paintbrush marks in here, but I want to make them one direction. And even though it's showing actual bristle marks, I know that the next coat's going to cover everything up, so I'm not too worried about it. An inside part of the drawer, so I don't even need to do that really. So there's a little bit more to do there, but we'll do this drawer while I have it out. This is the bottom drawer, and it has the little broken bit, but I'm going to fix that tonight, get it nailed together. This is the groove I was telling you about. This groove in here. So I'm just gonna roughly put the paint in there. I'm not worried about it being super duper nice right now. Just getting it on. Going across this bar here. And then down into the groove here. So there's all this scroll work along the bottom as well. And then I will show you how to take it off so it looks really nicely. You just have to swirl it around into these marks. So that's gotten it into all the edges and things. So now I'll take a little bit more paint. I've barely used maybe a quarter cup of paint in this whole first coat. And the first coat I always find does take the most paint. It's just the wood is dry, it's old, it's gonna soak up your paint pretty fast. Same thing if you have a house that you're painting and it's really old and the walls are super dry. It's gonna soak up your paint pretty fast as well. You use more paint on your first coat. So I can go either direction when I'm laying it on. I'm not fussing over it right now, but when I would lay it off, that's taking the paint and smoothing it out. I'm gonna be fussy about the direction. And then on this piece, I'm gonna go right underneath here with my roller. No sense painting it by hand. Just it's a time saver to use a little roller like this for this bit too. And I'll give that a second and the third coat after. So now I'm gonna lay it off. So I'm going to make sure I've got everything. And I'm going to go up and down here to get all the ripples out. And up and down here. And up and down here. And up and down there. And I'll do the top little bit in there in a while. You can use it for in here too if you want. Pretty fast. This part here isn't really necessary. This one is because this shows in between the drawers, but these other ones don't, but we'll do it anyway, just to say we did it. So that is a first coat on this cute antique dresser. And we'll let that dry for a couple of hours, and then I'll be doing another coat. So I'm just going to show you what the thing looks like. That is got a little bit of a run there, so I would check for runs at this point or any gobs and smooth them out. It's really not great looking, is it? But this will all cover over. I mean, this part here, I'm going to give a touch of paint, and same thing here. But it'll all cover over really nicely with the second coat. And then when you see it next time, I will do a third coat and a little bit of glazing. Finish the top, and then just a really short one on the transfer. And that will be it for this dresser. So this is part one of, what did I say, four pieces. There's this dresser, another one similar to it, but it's wider. These are all about 90 years old, these pieces. There's a really cute vanity with a beautiful mirror, and there is a headboard. So there's 4 pieces like this. We're going to do this in. It's going to be really pretty. So share with your friends. Be sure to watch us. Be sure to follow us so that the live notifiers come up when we go live, it'll send you a notifier saying we're going live. And I hope you learned something from this. It was pretty fast, but I just wanted to get it on and let it dry so I could do another coat tonight. So thank you for watching, and I will see you again. Go to our YouTube page, Flandrens Interiors on YouTube. All of our videos are being posted there. We've just started posting videos in the last couple of months, so if you see a video that says 32 views, don't freak out thinking we don't know what we're doing. It's just that